Hello, my friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family. Well, guys, this really is something that we should be paying attention to. And so, this statement right here, what's happening in the undeclared war between India and Pakistan? A war started Monday night between two countries with arsenals full of nuclear weapons, and you probably haven't even realized it. India and Pakistan are absolutely slugging it out again, and this is what's going on. The rivalry between neighbors, India and Pakistan, which has resulted in multiple wars over the past 70 years, heated up Monday night with a cross-border airstrike by Indian forces, which reportedly killed 300 militants. Over Tuesday night, the situation escalated with direct combat between the two countries, including the alleged shooting down of two Indian MiG-21 fighters and an Indian helicopter, and also a Pakistani F-16. And so if you just look at that, you can see how, well, it's a very convoluted situation in many ways. So, the Indians, they were flying the Russian-made MiG-21s, and also the Pakistanis were flying the American-made F-16. And yet, things have changed as far as, the situation between different countries as different alliances are always changing and in flux, and we've seen a lot of change in the world this past year or two. And so the potential for an all-out slugfest between these two countries is made exponentially worse by the fact that these two countries both maintain stockpiles of nuclear weapons. A crisis between the two could quickly spiral into a full-scale conventional war, then nuclear war, with grave consequences not only for the region but for the entire world. And there are particulars of this conflict as well as the policies from these two countries that could help keep nukes out of the sky, things the rest of the world could learn from. As you see, fighter jet trails up in the air. And so this is a little bit of a background. So India and Pakistan are two of the world's most intractable foes. The two countries, originally making up the majority of the British colony of India, achieved independence in 1947. So we saw a lot of changes after World War II. And this is one of them, and also, of course, the resurrection of Israel as well, shortly thereafter. So this kicked off a bloody partition that killed up to 2 million people, as Hindus and Sikhs fled east for what would later become India, and Muslims fled west to what would later become Pakistan. The two states became bitter enemies, a problem exacerbated by a disputed border that includes the Kashmir region. Kashmir, with Muslim residents making up 60% of the 15 million people who live there, was split up between India and Pakistan. A 435-mile-long border known as the Line of Control divides Indian Kashmir from Pakistani Kashmir, with troops from both sides manning the respective sides. As a result of this baked-in tension, India and Pakistan have fought 4 wars since independence, in 1948, 65, 72, and 99. 3 out of those 4 wars were fought over Kashmir. India claims that Pakistan trains and equips Muslim guerrilla forces meant to weaken India's hold over Kashmir and eventually bring the entire region under Pakistani control. These forces launch periodic attacks against Indian military and paramilitary forces, which they consider occupiers. Pakistan denies it has any links to the guerrilla forces. As we see the soldiers brandishing their AK-47s. So, how we got here, the developments of 2019. On February 14th, 2019, a convoy of Indian paramilitary forces in Indian Kashmir were attacked by a car bomb, killing 46 troops. The terror group held responsible for the attack, Jaish-e-Mohammed, the Army of Muhammad, is considered a foreign terrorist organization by the U.S. government and has openly declared war against the United States. India has repeatedly accused Pakistan of supporting Jaish-e-Mohammed and other groups as proxies to undermine Indian control of Kashmir. As we see on the map, you see Pakistan, we see India, and we see Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, Punjab. And so, and we see Bangladesh over here and Nepal and Bhutan, just to give you a lay of the land here. So on February 25th, 2019, India struck back 12 French-made Mirage 2000 fighter bombers from the 1st Tigers and 7th Battle Axes. Fighter squadrons took off from bases in India, armed with 2,000-pound laser-guided bombs, escorted by Sukhoi Su-30 Mark I fighter bombers. The Mirages flew at low level 40 miles into Pakistani territory and bombed what India claims was a GEM training camp outside of the town of Balakot. Like all modern pre-planned airstrikes, the strike took place late at night, 3 a.m. local time, and was conducted with tanker and unmanned surveillance aircraft support. India claims around 300 GEM militants were killed in the bombing raid, while Pakistan claims the airstrike dropped munitions on a patch of empty land. Meanwhile, on the ground, the two sides are shelling one another with artillery. And you see over here a shot of basically a downed Indian jet. And so on February 26, an Indian MiL-17 military transport helicopter crashed and was possibly shot down. Pakistani forces also shut down at least one and maybe two Indian Air Force MiG-21 fighter jets. Pakistan claims to have at least one Indian pilot in custody. For their part, Indian forces claim to have shot down a Pakistani F-16 Fighting Falcon as well. And then we get into the nuclear side of things, which we're going to take a look at as well. So, this is a conflict, again, steeped in history, and as we, look at Wiki over here, it's, going back to the partition of British India in 1947 that created these two modern states, and it's been tense ever since. As you see over here, a little map. And again, this has broken out into conflict many times, full-blown wars, as well as just smaller incidents as well, including a show of force with setting off nuclear weapons. So obviously not a good situation. And here on the BBC, India demands Pakistan release pilot as Kashmir crisis intensifies. As you can see, there's video here for you guys to see as well. And there was video, and I did watch it, showing the pilot blindfolded, blood on his face, and it was shared by Pakistan's information ministry. India described the images as a vulgar display of an injured personnel, and it did look like he was getting beaten up and hit, as you see pictures of him there and his plane. And there is a video there of the wreckage. And so, this is a very, very tense situation. And this is out of Al Jazeera. And this is talking about, basically, according to the Pakistani side, what was hit was just nothing. Just a field, dirt, nothing much at all. And it's not what the Indian side is saying. And this is out of Debka. Major clashes bring India and Pakistan to brink of third war over Kashmir. Of course, the reports are conflicting between the two sides, and as Debka notes here, this is a long-standing issue about Kashmir, and as we were saying, the tension has been something that's been ongoing since 1947. And here we have a chopper crash. And this is again in Kashmir, Jammu Kashmir, killing 6 IAF men, 1 civilian. Bollywood celebrities who belong to royal families. So 6 IAF men and 1 civilian were killed in an IAF Mi-17 helicopter crash in central Kashmir, about 7 kilometers from district headquarters of Bujam at about 10:10 a.m. on Wednesday. And again, there were reports of explosions, and then it came down. And out of RT, Nuclear Armageddon, has found newfound equilibrium, most definitely, and we could see the tension. And it's not just here, but this is definitely one that we need to pay attention to, because this could also spiral out of control. And in the past, there's been no real direct intervention by the United States, China, or Russia, although the U.S. has sent an aircraft carrier into the area before. And, there's been some posturing by some allies, but nothing direct has happened. And it's something we're going to have to really, really watch. Reignited tensions between India and Pakistan were accompanied by air combat and cross-border shelling, and there's a divided opinion on whether it can spark a full-fledged war. There remains a risk that tensions between the two bitter rivals will result in the worst-case scenario. Sultan Mahmood Ali, a retired group commander of the Pakistani Air Force, told RT, and there's video here as well. And, with the nuclear weapons on both sides, it's obviously not a good situation. And these are two pretty powerful militaries when you look at the rankings of militaries, which we're going to take a look at and break it down. These are not, small militaries at all. No Indian movie will be released. Pakistan bans Bollywood films and ads after the air raid. And over here I have Economic Times. India-Pakistan conflict will be bloodier than World War, so says Pakistan minister. And out of the Express, Pakistan versus India, allies and enemies. What countries support India? Who supports Pakistan? And just how will they support them? That's another thing going on because of the global tensions that we have going on right now. And if you are a student of history and you know your history and you've seen how these things have arisen before and we end up having what we've had, the two world wars. So what countries support India? If tensions continue to worsen between the two countries, India may have to gain support from its biggest allies. Russia has been a close ally of India since its independence, and they are also one of the biggest partners in bilateral trade. USA President Donald Trump is also said to be pro-India due to receiving a lot of funding from Hindus in his campaign for president. What countries support Pakistan? China is said to be an ally of Pakistan to fulfill its oil needs as well as to battle India's growth as a powerful Asian nation. Pakistan also has Turkey on its side, after they were both part of an alliance that was formed by the USA against the Soviet Union. Saudi Arabia is also a fan of Pakistan being a Sunni Muslim country, and the Saudi military is also trained by Pakistan. India and Pakistan, as we said, became independent in 1947, and it's broken down many times into conflicts. And so it will be interesting to watch what happens along those lines. So this is out of armscontrol.org. Nuclear weapons, who has what? And so this is 2018 estimated global nuclear warhead inventories. As you see here, Russia has 6,850, United States 6,550, and then everybody else is pretty far behind. China 280, France 300, UK 215, Israel 80, India 135, Pakistan 145, and then of course it depends on how powerful those are as well. As we, if you've studied any of this, they vary tremendously in their size and strength as well. So these are two nuclear armed countries. And if we take a look over here at globalfirepower.com, you see that India is actually ranked the 4th strongest military in the world after the US, Russia, and China. And Pakistan comes in at 17th. So you see the population, and this looks like a little bit of a low estimate, 1.281 billion with a B for India, and 204 million for Pakistan. So obviously India is about 6 times the size population-wise. Again, about 6 times as many manpower available, many more men fit for service, more reaching military age, and more than double the active personnel, and 10 times as many reserves. So your total military personnel in India, it's more than 4 times what Pakistan has. And the defense budget is much higher as well, as we're looking at $47 billion to $7 billion. So it's not going to be a fair fight conventionally, and that's been what has happened in the past as well. India's usually gotten the upper hand, and it would be the same thing. So the question would be, if Pakistan was losing a conventional war, what would they result to? Would they result to using the nuclear weapons? As we look at all these numbers, which very strongly favor India, total aircraft 2185 to 1281, fighters 590 to 320, attack aircraft 804 to 410, transports goes on down, breaking it down. Pakistan has more attack helicopters. India has more than double the serviceable airports. India has twice as many tanks, more armored fighting vehicles, and it goes on down, and the bigger Navy as well, with 1 aircraft carrier and 16 submarines, to no aircraft carriers for Pakistan and 5 submarines. 11 destroyers for India, none for Pakistan. So again, you definitely have a much stronger military in India than you do Pakistan. So if Pakistan's losing the conventional war, would they result and go to the nukes? Because more than likely, India wouldn't have to, if you follow that line of thinking. And so looking at the world's top 20 economies, you have the United States 1, China 2, Japan 3, Germany 4, UK 5, and then we come to India 6. And we've been talking about the growth, and India is the fastest growing trillion-dollar economy in the world. And right now it's the 6th largest, but it's poised to become the 5th largest economy, overtaking the UK in this year, according to the IMF. And the country ranks 3rd when GDP is compared in terms of purchasing power parity at 9.45 trillion. So when it comes to calculating GDP per capita, India's high population drags its GDP per capita down to $1,982. So it's really growing fast, and it is up and coming, and there are even sources that say, just like we've talked about the inevitability of China surpassing the United States at some point as the dominant world power, there are some sources saying India will shortly thereafter go past China. And so there's really a lot going on here. And this the Wall Street Journal, the title, "The Future is Asian. Review Global Power Shifting East." And as long as this channel has been operating, I've been saying that, and we this is part of the plans. And the question is the decline of the West, so long predicted, now within sight? A loosely unified Asian mega-region may be its replacement. And so a lot of it breaks down to what's going to happen in the relationship between India and China as well, because India and China have had some standoffs of their own. And so China is a strong ally of Pakistan now. As we know, you saw some F-16s that were used by Pakistan. And so things have shifted in the past, and arms supplies shift. We see Turkey. Turkey they still are a part of NATO, but now they're definitely aligned with Russia and China and Iran and Pakistan. So this is really interesting to see and to watch, because if this breaks down, as it really could, it's going to test a lot of relationships, and it could strain some alliances as well. And this is out of Global Times, and it says India and China should work together to make Asia's century. As that's direct wording to go against the New American Century. PNAC, Project for a New American Century, which was all done by the neocons, and showed how the U.S. had to go into these nations and control the energy and resources, of which the only nation that's untouched right now is Iran. And this came out before the second Bush came to power, and this came out years before about 4 years before, to be precise, 9/11 happened, and it's gone according to plan. All the nations have been basically controlled, besides Syria. As we have seen, the neocons and their aggressive policies. If you've ever watched General Wesley Clark talking about, we're going into all these countries, and it hasn't worked in Syria, although Syria is still, it's still an issue and still a tension point. And the only country that has not been touched is Iran. And so when we look at all this stuff going on, boy, I tell you, to me, it is more tenuous. We're as tenuous right now as I think we've been in the Cuban Missile Crisis, really. And that's just what it feels like to me. And the potential for really world global conflict this year is the highest I think we've ever faced. It just feels it to me. And you guys share your opinions. Please do let me know what you think. Will calmer heads prevail, or is this going to break down even farther? Really want to hear your opinions on what you see and what you feel. And the worst part about all this is, for the most part, almost everybody, the average civilians of the world, don't want this continual conflict, because it's just not good for the average person. And we need to find a way to work past all these things and to get some real long-lasting peace. And of course, we know often peace isn't profitable. And unfortunately, that's the society that we have. That's the world we live in. And that has to change if we are to survive and make it through these times. Because, many of you believe these are the birth pangs, that have been foretold, and believe that we're in the end times. And there are all sorts of signs all over the place. And whether you're, Christian looking at the end times, or if you're Jewish and you're seeing the signs of the Messiah, or if you are Muslim and perhaps awaiting the Imam Mahdi, or if you are, Buddhist and you're waiting for the Maitreya, and you think that might be coming as well, or the Hopi, and you see signs of blue and red Kachina being here. Or if you are a student of Sumerian lore and think that Nibiru is making its return, there's a good argument for all those right now. We could see the signs that are all around us. But let's not lose sight that ultimately, what is the outcome? And the ultimate outcome is, we're going to go through these birth pangs, and ultimately what we have is a chance at a new world. And a chance at a new way. It's not complete destruction. It's not death to every form of life on the planet. And somehow life will survive, and somehow we'll survive, whether all of us make it in the body or out. We're going to have to see how that goes. But at the same time, life will make it through, and life will survive, and ultimately it'll be a return to a golden age. And that's basically the outcome when we look at all these sources as well, is what comes is so much better than what we're in now. Because we have been in the Kali Yuga, according to the Hindu philosophy, and that means it's the dark age. We've been living in a dark age of unenlightenment, and we could see that as what's driven us has been basically the ego, corporate greed, and just everything that goes against unity consciousness and coming together and working together in peace. And the world is waking up. People are waking up. We see it with the Yellow Vest protests. We see it in so many other areas as well. And it's time to just say no to all this war. And just, if we could get the soldiers of the world to stand down and just refuse to fight, that would change everything. And is that a possibility? Well, I hope so. I hope so. So, my friends, as always, thumbs up, support the channel. Please do subscribe, click the bell, get all the notifications, share with as many as possible, and let's wake up others. Let's get others on board to the changes that need to happen. As always, share, and I look forward to your comments, my friends. Stay safe out there, stay alert, stay prepared, but no fear. God bless. Namaste.